Welcome to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould. I'm your host, and we're here to talk about the Star Wars, the Force itself, and the fandoms. And with me today is my co-host, Liam Rathgeber, who's here to help me explain, converse, talk about different topics to do with everything we just said. Welcome, Liam.
Thanks for having me.
So if you want to just give us a quick intro to who you are and what you're all about.
Well, I feel a little bit intimidated coming on the show, knowing who some of the other co-hosts are going to be, and with you yourself are more sort of defined as the super fans. You deep dive into subjects on Star Wars and the fandom and the what it all means, and this music is tied into this music and this composer meant to say this, whereas I'm more of a casual fan. I go and I see the movie and there's spaceships and lasers and I just
and you
go
enjoy
and
it
myself.
Yeah, exactly. But you do have a unique perspective in that, like, you do podcast yourself, so you're used to this format, but also you have some kind of behind the scenes knowledge from your work with our local Calgary Comic Expo, in that you are one of the people that takes the photos.
Yeah, I'm one of the photographers for the celebrity photo ops through Epic Photo Ops, and it does give me some unique access. As a photographer, there's a lot of times when it's basically just myself, the star, and their handler in the booth, and we get to see what they're really like when the fans aren't all there, when they're just being themselves as just a regular person, as well as what they go through to get themselves ready to have, sometimes, lineups of 700, 800 fans coming through over the course of an hour. And then at the end, when the curtains close and they're finally able to drop character, and you can see what happened to the real person while they were going through all that.
Yeah, it just sounds like a gauntlet. And I can't actually even imagine being in that situation, and that they are good actors, because for the most part, they try to give that fan a unique moment. Yeah, it's interesting because they do almost need to maintain a fan accepting character to be okay with seeing all these people and like get them pumped up and through those 700 people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's another character they play, and it's part of their job as a performer, especially performers in almost anything genre related have absolutely rabid fan bases. So it's part of maintaining that fan base, and they realize that this is what brought them to the dance, is that they have all these people that want to see them. So it's rewarding and taxing at the same time for them. But every last one of them has been there for the fans and has done that because they appreciate being appreciated.
So do you have a story of a Star Wars star that you would like to tell?
Well, I'll try to remember everyone from Star Wars that I've worked with. It's been a few years. I think there's been 6 of them. I've worked with Carrie Fisher, of course, Ian McDiarmid, who is the Emperor, who he finds it as funny as everyone else that 30 years after playing a character, he was brought back to play the same character 30 years younger.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Peter Mayhew, finally met him last year. Gwendolyn Christie, who is Captain Phasma in the new trilogy. Let's see. We have Anthony Daniels is C-3PO, and he really is C-3PO.
Like, on the inside, he is actually that person.
The way I usually say it is that C-3PO is a toned down Anthony Daniels. Lovely, lovely man, but a little neurotic.
Yeah, okay.
He's very exacting, very precise. And I always forget the 6th person, but this isn't a video podcast, so you can't see my eyes getting bigger. Dave Prowse.
Oh, Prowse, okay.
Who was the original Darth Vader.
The guy in the suit.
The guy in the suit. Originally did the voice, but it didn't work out that well, so they brought in James Earl Jones to give him a little bit more gravitas.
I mean, they overwrote Darth Maul's voice too, so it was a George thing.
Yeah.
Oh, your voice is not intimidating enough. You need a new one.
But Dave Prowse, he was one of the first. He came the first year that I was doing it, which would have been I think 6 or 7 years ago now. And just having the relaxed conversation when there was no one else around and not talking about the fandom, just sort of talking guy to guy because I rarely wear a watch anymore, but I collect watches, and I was wearing a fairly interesting watch that day, as was he. So we got talking about watches, and the watch that he was wearing that day was it was a gift to him from, if I remember correctly, it was the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, because he was in Saudi for a couple of years as the Crown Prince's personal trainer.
What? That's cool.
So
he's like fairly built, like was he a bodybuilder, I think? Yeah, it was his background, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to see how big he really was, if you've ever seen the movie A Clockwork Orange, in the later part of the movie when Alex goes back to the house where the ultraviolence happened and the old guy is there with his muscly
man.
That's Dave Prowse.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's Darth Vader who's
Darth
protecting
Vader
the house.
is in A Clockwork Orange. That's a connection that you do not think of. That's great.
But super nice guy, really down to earth. And that's one thing that I've noticed about pretty much all of them is that when the lights are off, they're just people. And if you act like they're just people and you're not going all Googa over them, they tend to act like that back, and you get to have really good conversations with them.
You know, that's really something to keep in mind, especially as fans. We do get really passionate about what we care about. These, especially Star Wars, to me, means a lot to me. But it's important to remember that, you know, behind The Last Jedi, there's real people. And there's thousands of real people that put their hearts and souls into making The Last Jedi. And, you know, there has been some, I would say, uglier parts of the fandoms that have come up and actually said some not very nice things to the creators. But, you know, one thing that I've taken from, especially in the last few months, and why I decided to start this podcast and invite you to co-host and a few other people that are going to come and co-host and guest, is that it's better to create than to destroy. And I think that that's one of the big themes of Star Wars is that destruction is the path of the dark side. No, seriously.
No, you're 100%.
And so, you know, as much as you might not agree with some of the creative decisions, at least they're creating. And that's what we're doing today. And that's what our hope is to continue on with this podcast is to create, to have conversations, hopefully interesting conversations. And that leads me right into, what is this all going to be about? You know, what is this?
I know. It's about Star Wars.
Yes. First and foremost, it's about Star Wars. And it's also going to be about conversations about what the Force is going on. I love saying that. So, you know, like, okay, so how is this all going to be interconnected in that we've heard from Lucas and the story group? They're all telling one story. What does that mean, especially since the canon reset? And, you know, what are some of the more philosophical ideas that are being introduced in the wars? And how is that all, you know, kind of coming out in the different media that is coming out? Like, so Rebels, we're going to be talking about Rebels. Hopefully we'll be doing a recap really soon, leading up to the end of this season, end of season 4 and end of Rebels, and then talking about, well, where could they go next? That would be really interesting, I think, as well as talking about some of the stories that they've introduced in the other media, the books, etc., and just getting your insight. If I tell you something like, oh, the reason lightsaber crystals are red is because dark users make them bleed. Yeah. Like, what? And also into, you know, getting some experts on here. I, you know, want to get an expert in religious studies to talk about Taoism and its influence on here, talking about narrative. But then again, also taking a step back and kind of the side adjacent Star Wars fandoms, which is, you know, there are people out there that dress up in costumes all the time. And one of them is going to be another one of our co-hosts. You know, and what is that all about? And just kind of talking about it, because I think that sometimes people find that intimidating if they're a fan and not a super fan. and you know, kind of taking away the mystery of how you get involved with those things or why it's so neat. there's droid builders, there's RPG people, there's
The 501st.
501st,
Which
yeah.
is massive.
It's massive, and they do great work for the community. I mean, like, even locally, they were just at a hospital helping fulfill a child's last wish. Like, heady stuff.
They do big things. Like the 501st is tens of thousands of people, and they're always doing something awesome.
I know. I'm blown away, and James will be on me all the time to join because he's like, you are the biggest Star Wars fan that I've known that is not in the 501st.
He actually blames me for getting him started, which is
Oh.
I find absolutely hilarious because I don't have any costuming or anything like that. But I got him started on making things, and it's just spiraled to the point that he's got something like 13 full, like, screen ready costumes.
I know. It's I'm blown away by his making ability.
Well, he's done amazing work. He's actually been on my podcast, A Story Not Forgotten, on an episode called The Maker, where he goes into basically how he got started after I apparently tripped him into it.
And if you want an introduction to James before he actually shows up on the podcast, you can check that out. Story Not
that
Forgotten.
could be your cheat sheet.
Cheat sheet onto what he's all about. Yeah, no, he's intense and awesome, and he also has a derelict from Doctor Who.
Yeah, he's got a Dalek full size.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Dalek.
Dalek. I'm sorry.
I'm not a big Whovian. I've watched. I started watching Doctor Who for Peter Capaldi's first episode because I made a promise to Matt Smith in order to mess with the fans in line. Because I had never watched I'd gone my entire life never watching an episode of Doctor Who, which was losing me huge geek cred. And then I was working with Matt Smith and here I go blanking on names again. She's Nebula in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Karen Gillian.
Oh yeah, Karen Gillian.
And we can hear the lineup has moved up, so there's nothing separating us from these rabid Doctor Who fans. That's another fandom that they're foaming at the mouth whenever something comes up.
And they're knitted scarves.
Yeah, and there's nothing between us and them but a curtain. So Matt Smith and I have spoken already. He knows that I've never watched it before, so he's sort of motioning at the curtain like, oh, we got to mess with these guys. So he says, well, have you ever watched Doctor Who? And I said, no, I'm not really into medical dramas. And you could just hear this ire raising up there. And he's like, well, I really think you should give it a chance. And this is right when he's finishing his run as the Doctor. And I said, well, I hear Peter Capaldi's supposed to be taking over the role. I'm a bit of a fan of his, so maybe I'll give it a shot. So the first 20 or 30 people in line were trying to get these pictures of them smiling, and they're happy because they're standing with Matt Smith, but they're glaring at me behind the camera.
And you've got nothing but like eye squinty but fake smiles in your photos for that day.
Yeah. But James built a full-size Dalek with a suspended seat inside of it. It runs on wheelchair motors, so he can actually sit in this thing and drive it around the conventions. And then it's even got a voice modulator, so he speaks into the mic and it has a Dalek voice that comes out. Like that's the sort of thing that this guy does for fun.
Yeah,
like he's not getting paid for it. He's just doing it because maybe I'll build a Dalek today. All of my Stormtrooper costumes are done, so.
There's no new Stormtroopers to make. I've got this done. Yeah.
I'll just wait until the next Star Wars property comes out. What should I build next?
What's cool? Yeah, no, he loved The Last Jedi and the new Stormtrooper ideas that were introduced in that, which is really great.
Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent.
No, it's cool. That's what this is about a little bit, in that, and I've never watched Doctor Who because I prefer my fairy tales in space. I don't know. I love the mythos of Star Wars and what it's all about, and like the deeper meanings that you can kind of see in the underlayer of it. And I just maybe I just don't get the British humor. I don't know what it is about it, but bless those Whovians out there.
If somebody loves something, I'm always in support of it.
Yeah, and for the most part, like, what I love about the fandoms that are out there that, you're getting involved and you're helping people out is, for the most part, they're about creating more. Like you're creating costumes, or you're knitting Star Wars R2-D2 hats, or you're doing your own thing, which is is so awesome.
What originally was just this kind of goofy movie that George Lucas really didn't think he was going to make any money on.
And had no idea he was going to make more of them.
No, it's turned into this cultural phenomenon that it is bled out into the culture to an extent that I can't really think of any other entertainment property that has done so. I mean, Star Trek is fairly close.
Yeah.
But the fact that in the latest Canadian census, enough people identified their religion as Jedi that they had to add it as an option.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Speaking from here in Canada, that's like what people believe, which, I mean, it's not a bad thing, though. Like, what the Jedi tenets are actually pretty wonderful in a way, which is, you do good for other people, and that is selfless, and that is what you're trying to do. And the undercurrent is, let's face it, the last 40 years have been about, at least Star Wars running under the undercurrent of society. Darth Vader's in Coke commercials. Everybody knows who Darth Vader is. Everybody knows that the Star Wars movies are coming out, especially with The Force Awakens and that phenomenon of waiting for so long for a movie to come out, and like people going, there's a new one coming out, and like people who I work with and people who hadn't, like, I never associated with being Star Wars fans were like, oh yeah, I got my tickets for opening night. And it was like just wonderful to see that kind of influx of that. And overall, what Lucas has done with the canon refresh has been really fascinating to see, to say, and I think that one of the main reasons they wanted to refresh the canon is because somebody killed Chewbacca. And they were like, no.
No, we need Chewbacca.
We need Chewbacca. Chewbacca's like the best. So
I looked at it sort of like when every few years, or in some cases,
and George
10
said
or
yes
more,
to everything, right?
Yeah. You see Marvel or DC Comics will do a continuity refresh. And I think it's not so much to get back whoever's died, because anyone dies in a comic, they're coming back. But I think it's just because the continuity had gotten so big and so convoluted that they basically needed to clean it up so that they'd be able to follow it themselves.
Yeah, and so they specifically reset the canon for the 6 movies, the Clone Wars cartoon, and Pablo clarified this on Twitter at one point, this 5 of the novelizations.
I thought some of the old comic books have been included in the new canon.
Not officially. Officially, it was the 6 movies.
Okay.
5 of the novelizations and the Clone Wars.
But they are reintroducing a lot of the dismissed canon back in.
Well, like
now.
Thrawn.
They're sort of sprinkling a little bit here and there.
Like Pablo's spoken about this, and Dave Filoni. They have the entire Legends, amazing plethora of writers to pull from and say, hey, we love that idea, we love that concept. There's a lot of rumblings that Mara Jade is going to come back at some point in some form. She was Luke Skywalker's girlfriend.
Oh, well.
They had babies. Babies? I don't remember.
Right.
It was a long time ago.
I mean, maybe not.
No,
Rey.
not Rey. And
I've got my own theory on Rey's parentage.
Oh, I've got my own theory on Rey's parentage.
Everybody has their own theory on Rey's parentage.
Because that's what Ryan said.
I think her grandparents are more important than her parents.
Oh, okay. Oh no, we've had this conversation. We'll bring it up. We'll have another conversation about this. But I love that Pablo specifically says that Pablo Hidalgo, who's one of the story group execs, he says the Revenge of the Sith novelization is not canon. And do you know why? The Revenge of the Sith novelization is not canon because at the point when Vader becomes Darth Vader, so when Anakin is put into the suit, he's all burned and he's like screaming to the heavens, thinking about Padme and thinking about his life and how did it all lead to this? Pablo said he would have been thinking about Ahsoka, and that is the only reason that book is not in canon.
Oh, Ahsoka. If anybody from Disney is listening to this, I'm going to make a personal request that when you're doing your character solo movies, make an Ahsoka movie.
I know.
I want that so bad. And I know she has asked for the role. Please cast Rosario Dawson in the role because she crushes everything she does.
She's really good, yeah. And she really wants it too.
She desperately wants it, and she would be so good. Yeah, she's gone online, she's gone on Twitter and that, and she's publicly said that she wants to play Ahsoka. Yeah. And if you Google Rosario Dawson Ahsoka, the fan art and the concepts, some of which I believe she's posted, look absolutely amazing with her as the character in full costume and makeup, even if it's done digitally.
I think that I want Dave Filoni to get his own movie, his own live action movie, but I don't know if he wants it. He was just recently made the lead of the animation group, so not just Star Wars Rebels, not just Clone Wars, but in charge of all Lucas animation. Which does that mean animations potentially in the future?
Yeah, it could mean full-length animated Star Wars movies too,
which would be cool.
As far as I know, there's only been the one in current canon.
Yeah, the Clone Wars, which was in some ways like an extra long episode, which he almost does every single season of Rebels to kick it off, and then at the end to close it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would like to see theatrical length content in theaters from Dave Filoni. He deserves it. He's like the Padawan to George Lucas's Jedi. He was trained up. He was brought on. His original work was for the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is just amazing.
Yeah, that's another benchmark property.
Exactly. And like he was brought on and learned a lot during Clone Wars. And yeah, they made some I would say like some rough patches in Clone Wars where maybe sometimes the storytelling wasn't as great, or the animation was a little rougher.
Well, it's never going to be completely perfect either, and I know a lot of the fandom expects it to be exactly what they want it to be 100% all the time, and I am going to write angry letters and emails if it isn't. But it isn't. It's people making this stuff. So it's going to be damn good whatever it is.
And what I love about the creative process, and actually this is an interesting thing. I was just listening to the Filmcast podcast, and Ryan Johnson was on there talking about The Last Jedi, and he was specifically talking about the creative process. And we have kind of two contradictory things out there in the ether of reporting on The Last Jedi. The story group has said very much George's original vision of the final trilogy, or the 7, 8, 9, is still alive and well. And Ryan, who says, I was given carte blanche. I could do whatever I want. But he said something earlier on in that podcast, which is really, really interesting. He said, this is still a hero's journey.
Well, and I think the way that it's being done is really the way that Star Wars works best, is George Lucas comes up with an idea. He comes up with the story arc. He creates a world, and then somebody else makes it.
And I think that there may not be the exact like, oh, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. But there's definitely the Joseph Campbell hero's journey is influencing it all. Rey is a good person. Rey is a hero.
Yep.
In addition to that, it's also influencing the whole Star Wars canon engine that is like kept on the tracks by the engineers, which are the Lucas Story Group. And it's all tying these threads in together. And you cannot possibly tie these threads in together unless you at least have a direction that the train is going in.
Well, yeah, they obviously know how it's going to end. And I'm sure if one of them breathes that before it's released, they will be fired.
Yeah, it's
possibly like out of a cannon into the sun.
That non-disclosure agreement must be like you commit is it like
seppuku?
Seppuku, yeah. Like you have to commit seppuku in front of the House of Mouse.
Yeah, Disney has actually built one working lightsaber for that purpose.
One working lightsaber. And it's purple. They've hired
Mace.
Yeah, they've hired Mace Windu to be they've hired not Mace Windu.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson to come over from the Marvel universe and just decapitate whoever leaks how the saga ends. No, but what I'm saying is you can't do what you do in Rebels, which is tie into not only Rogue One, but also bring up themes and content and ideas from The Force Awakens and from The Last Jedi and from the comic books and from the Clone Wars without at least having a unified story, which Kathleen Kennedy has mentioned, which Pablo has spoken to. They're all telling the same story, which many times has come up in the themes and the motifs and the fact that they reference in big or in little steps the hero's journey, which is the mythos of human culture. Yeah.
Yeah. And that iconic hero's journey.
Yeah.
Like that's what almost every movie is when you break it down. It's just in this case, it's broken down over trilogies.
Exactly. And like for Luke himself, I tweeted about it today, but the idea is he has 4 unique hero's journeys. He becomes an adult, a child to adultdom. He has a journey into spirituality, becoming a Jedi, all of that journey towards what does it all mean? He is searching for his father, which is a common hero's journey, trying to find your father and the truth about what happened to your father.
Yep.
And redeeming him, which was ending up. And then he got a nice, good one. He got an awesome one in The Last Jedi, which is failed mentor, sacrifice for the greater good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Luke is one of the all-time great characters.
I know. And like...
Well, Luke became one of the all-time great characters because in A New Hope he was whiny. He was insufferable. If it had ended at that movie, Luke would not be an iconic character.
Well, it's like George's direction is, okay, whine more, whine more, whine more. Like, I mean, Hayden Christensen has been quoted saying, "No, he wanted me to be this whiny kid," and yeah, it's like hit the starting place. And even Ahsoka in the Clone Wars movie, this great, lovely, amazing, powerful female character.
Oh, it started off awful though.
Awful. R2E, Sky Guy. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, she started off as sort of the annoying little sister character, and then became so badass by the end. Well,
and not only that, but we got to see her grow up throughout like this kind of horrific war radio drama. It almost had that feel, especially with the intro music and the announcer who's kind of like, "Where are we at now?" Yeah. Their old-timey radio voice.
Well, and she was also, I think one thing that I really liked about her in the overall story arc is everyone knows what's going on. Everyone knows that Anakin is
going to
you're
the dark
watching
side.
him get a little darker and a little darker as all of these awful things happen. Like, it's justifying why he became Darth Vader by just the piles of crap that are thrown at him.
Matt Lanter, the voice of Anakin in the Clone Wars cartoon, is just amazing.
But it's what's really refreshing is that throughout, Ahsoka is right there at his side.
Yeah.
She's getting the same crap thrown at her, and she's staying positive.
Yeah.
And you can see that there's times when she struggles with it, but she's trying to find the positive of it. Right up until the episode where she leaves. Where she just... And that was such a heartbreaking...
Because in the end, she was betrayed by the hard culture of the Jedi and their expectations.
Well, and that's what made it such a heartbreaking episode, was that this character who, through all of these seasons and all of these trials, has stayed positive, she's finally been broken.
Yeah.
And she's finally run out of that positivity. And it's still a powerful character. And I loved having her come back later on. But but watching the one sort of beacon of light throughout.
Oh yeah, yeah, and even Obi-Wan struggles with his own questions of the Jedi in that series, in that like, you know, his decision to, you know, he had a hot girlfriend at one point, Satine, which you know, his own struggles with what it means to be a Jedi, and that he has given it up because they truthfully believe that it's the only way. And I think that that's what's going to come full circle in the end of 9, is maybe it's not the only way. Maybe. And it'll be just fascinating to see 6 movies, you know, 2 cartoon shows. If we get another cartoon show starting before 9, which would be wonderful.
Yeah, something to bridge 8 to 9.
8 to 9, yeah. Yeah. And like something, I mean, Dave's going to be behind it, of course, but just I'm fascinated to see where they go with the storytelling after this. We know Rian Johnson has a trilogy. He signed up for a trilogy after this, so it could be anything. Could be Star Wars stories or another saga. Could be 10, 11, 12.
Has he signed on specifically for another Star Wars trilogy?
Yes.
Or was it just he's signed a 3-picture deal with Disney?
No, it's with Lucasfilm for
Okay.
3 Star Wars movie trilogy. Yeah.
Because with Disney owning Marvel as well, he'd be able to perhaps take some of his talents that way. And he's a great storyteller, and he knows how to tie a shared universe together. So I think he'd be quite welcome on the Marvel side of things too.
Yeah, no, he was talking about it, and yeah, it's 3 Star Wars movies in a trilogy, and who knows what it's going to be.
I've got no problem with that.
I know, it's awesome. And what I love about his style, and you know, we'll go into more about what happens in The Last Jedi later on, but more his style, and he's said it a couple of times, is he likes to see the characters put up against what is the hardest thing for them to deal with. And that is the theme, and failure especially. And that's the theme of The Last Jedi, is how do you overcome the worst thing that you can imagine?
Well, and the struggles that they're up against are very personal to each character.
Yeah.
It's not just, here is a really hard situation for everyone to go through. It's
like, what is the thing from your nightmares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's Rey finding out that this iconic leader or teacher that she needs to find really doesn't want to teach her.
Yeah.
And is, okay, well,
and
don't go over there. There's evil there. I'm going to go over there. And then you get Finn, who is going through his arc in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Who he basically just wants to be away from the Empire and or the First Order, and maybe spend some special time with Rey. And it's him finding out that, no, actually, yeah, pretty much everything is bad. So
yeah, like there's nowhere to run. He
gets his hero's journey in the center there. And
yeah.
I mean, everyone has their struggle. It's Poe not being the hero.
Yeah, and also like dealing with his own consequences of his bravado, right? Because his ego was huge after The Force Awakens, and people forget, like, he quite literally like saved the day. He blew up the thing that blew up. Yeah, there was a lot of people involved, but he was the one that landed the shot. He blew up Starkiller Base. He is the Luke Skywalker equivalent with the shot that landed in the right place.
Yeah, and it's hard not to have some swagger after that, and then suddenly having the rug pulled out from under you of, yeah, you saved the day. Here's the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
Of seeing that, no, it's not all positive.
No, it's not all positive, and sometimes those came with risks, and the fact that you can't see the downside to what you've done is what Leia's like slapping him for. like you idiot, don't you see? And in many ways it's Finn growing up and becoming a hero. It's Poe growing up and becoming a leader. And effectively women slapping men throughout the whole movie. Slapping men into shape.
That's just the theme of Hollywood right now.
Right, I know, right? Like even Rey smacks Luke on the head with her staff.
Yeah.
It's like, all the, Rose is like, tasing Finn. Leia slaps and shoots Poe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those porgs slap Chewie with their big sad eyes.
With the big sad eyes. Well, Chewie can do no wrong, including eating porg. Although now the Falcon has an infestation.
Oh yeah, it's just imagine what that ship smells like by the end of that movie.
Like, have you ever been around like birds like that are on the coast or whatever, or
if you've walked through the penguin house at the zoo?
Oh, the penguin place.
I figured that's probably the Millennium
equivalent.
Falcon right now.
It's like,
well, not right now, a long time ago and really far away.
You think about it, now they have food to go, like they've got food.
You're an awful person.
I realize that. I like the porgs. I think that they're really cute, and I think that the whole way that they handled covering up the puffins, which I love this story.
The fact that there were so many puffins on those cliffs that it took too much effort to digitally edit them all out, so they just stuck porgs over them.
And they actually considered like removing the puffins, but it was like mating season.
Yeah,
so they're like
thousands and thousands of them.
We'll just cover them with porgs. Which now porgs exist, and now they're leaving that island and going to the rest of the universe, and they're like tribbles.
Yeah,
they're going to
like
be everywhere.
Tribbles.
Yeah, they're going to be everywhere.
I'm not sure what race would be the equivalent of the Klingons to not like the porgs.
Not like the porgs?
Because everyone knows Klingons don't like tribbles.
Yeah.
And tribbles don't like Klingons.
Yeah. Chewie didn't seem to mind them so much. Like he had a co-pilot there for a little while. Or maybe a dashboard. Like little... I need that for my car. I need a little porg.
You need a porg on your dashboard?
On the dashboard. That's doing the screamy face.
Yeah, when you honk the horn, it goes...
Yeah, that sounds awesome. What did you think of the keepers of the Jedi Temple, or the groundskeepers, the
little lizard nuns?
They're related to the porgs, according to the Visual Dictionary. They're like a descent. They're like, the porgs are monkeys and we're humans.
I think that they could probably do a bit of a better job. Because they're literally living in ruins. The only reason that Luke's stone hut had a door was because he cannibalized parts off of his X-Wing to close out the elements.
I think that their village got cut, actually. They have a separate village on the island. And at one point, and this is going to be in a deleted scene, there's like a fire in the middle of the village and they're having a party. And Rey force runs from one side of the island to the other.
That's like a 15-minute run.
And like she does it in a couple of seconds. No, but like she does it super quick and is like freaking out. And Luke's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And that would have been the only other time other than the prequels that we saw a force run, which is cool. But deleted scenes, I guess they just decided to not include that.
Well, if they included everything, how long would the movie have been?
4 hours.
I mean, it's not Peter Jackson here.
I know. Well, yeah, Ryan, I think, said that the rough cut was 4 hours long.
So that means there is a special edition, extra long version coming out eventually, because if there's one thing Disney knows, it's how to sell more stuff.
Well, no, I mean, like they haven't done that with TFA. The rough cut is always huge. It's what it it's what it takes to make a movie.
They're still releasing longer versions of Lord of the Rings.
That's true.
It's been 10 years?
I know. It's like,
but this one's got 18 seconds in the middle act that completely changes your concept of everything. It's Rey force running across the island.
Yeah, just that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't needed. I think that's why things get cut, is that they weren't needed to tell the story of those characters. What do you think of the Han Solo movie, Solo, a Star Wars story?
I think that they spent a year coming up with that name.
You think so?
But because it's been untitled Han Solo movie
for a really long
time, and then they came up with Solo, a Star Wars movie.
We're supposed to be getting the trailer.
Isn't it supposed to be with Black Panther?
Undetermined. We still have not heard. They say maybe Super Bowl weekend, so Sunday.
Yeah, this weekend.
Or which this might come out because I'm editing. The trailer might already be here by
Who
the time
knows?
this comes out, and then we will be like, oh, watching it. Or Black Panther, which I'm going to see opening night, so I will let you know.
Well, see, with my opinions on the Solo movie, and this is it's probably going to lose me some geek cred, and it's going to show that I'm a casual fan and not a super fan. When they announced the casting of it, I went, yeah, that could probably work. And when they announced that they were making a Han Solo movie, I went, yeah, I'd probably go see that. And then the internet is saying, you can't cast these people in that role. That's completely wrong. And I'm mad at everything. And why are you doing this movie instead of the movie I want you to do? And, I don't want to be that rabid a fan. I just want to go and enjoy some movies.
I was super reticent about Rogue One, and I loved it.
I loved Rogue One. I liked The Force Awakens. I loved Rogue One.
I loved The Force Awakens. I also loved The Last Jedi. I was confused for weeks about how I felt about The Last Jedi.
When I've only seen it once.
Yeah.
I went and saw it about a week after it came out because I just can't go opening week because people. But I went and saw it and I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about it for a while and then I loved it.
Yeah. No, it took me a while to process because I really tried to avoid spoilers. I tried to just kind of go in and like let it affect me.
Mm-hmm.
And I cried at one point and I came home and I said, I don't actually know how I feel about that. And that was the first time ever I didn't have a strong, I had a strong emotional reaction in that I loved what had been done and I appreciated the artistry and the effort in mind. But it took me a while to fully absorb the storytelling.
Well, I'm the same way that I try to avoid spoilers. I'll watch the trailer 1,000 times, but if I haven't seen the movie yet and I'm scrolling through Facebook or Twitter and I see something about whatever it is, fast scroll, get past it. I don't even want to see headlines because I don't want to get the spoilers. But once I've seen the movie, I'll usually, go home, go to bed, process for the night. The next day, I will find everything about it. All of the articles and all of the fan theories and things like that. And that's where I'll absorb everything. And yeah, it was the stuff that's come out past me seeing Last Jedi hasn't affected my feelings on it. It's just taking the time to process it and thinking when I left it, I was thinking that entire second act with the casino planet and that could have been cut. I was feeling that the movie could have been 40 minutes shorter and not really have lost anything.
Mm-hmm.
And having had time to process it and seeing that second act was basically a contracted version of Finn's hero's journey of going from just being somebody who left the First Order to being, you scum, that's rebel scum to you. And
yeah, because he hadn't had any time to process his experience and what he left the First Order a week ago. Give the boy a minute to figure out if he actually wants to be a hero, and he makes the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
With Rose poking him the whole way along, saying, look, there is nowhere else to go.
Mm-hmm. I really liked the Rose character as well. I mean, we've had the conversation about the issue that I had with Rose that I think was actually an issue with the theater that I was in.
You said she looks like an anime character or like a cartoon character.
Yeah, I used to do home audio, big 10-speaker home audio system installations, and I trained myself to be really on cue for sound centering. And I think the sound, which it only seemed to be with her voice, was off by 1/100th of a second, and it made anytime she talked look phony. It kind of reminded me of Superman's mouth from Justice League. That's a person, and the mouth is supposed to be mouthing the words, but the mouth looks like it was done in post.
Oh, jeez. No, I didn't experience that when I've watched it three times.
That tiny nitpick is my biggest complaint about The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi, yeah. I think the thing that some people are getting pretty angry about is that
that's not how the Force works. Yes, it is.
Well, no, not even. No, I mean, some people were angry about that, but like the Force is literally kind of like you're a god. You're a demigod in this mortal realm, and you can kind of do anything you want. It's up to your,
It's up to your writer.
Well, it's up to your writer, but it's also up to, kind of the connection you have and how much you actually give over to the Force. Like,
Well, and they've at this point spent eight movies. Well, let's say 7 leading up to The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Basically showing that everybody uses the Force differently.
Yeah.
So how the Force works is it's however the Force needs to work.
Yeah, and in the Clone Wars, they explore almost like a theology of the Force in how different people refer to it and use the Force.
Mm-hmm.
There's the witches that Ventress's Mother Talzin comes from, and she uses it almost like a magic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the
I'm not sure if you've heard the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Darth Plagueis the Wise. Yeah, exactly. There's also Jar Jar Binks' girlfriend. It's like the last season. Jar Jar Binks goes to like this weird bird people's planet, and I don't really remember the name of them, but they have a specific version of the Force which they use, and they have magics associated with it.
I was just hoping we could get through the first episode without referencing Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
Actually,
Sorry.
there was a fan that did a fan recut after Phantom Menace came out,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw it. I think this was ages ago. I think Kevin Smith actually posted a link to it on Twitter, that somebody had gone in and they'd removed any point of Anakin like yippying or anything like that.
Yeah.
And they had redubbed all of the Gungans with this really like gravelly warrior voice because we're a warrior people in that. And it was amazing.
Yeah, I think they also made the Trade Federation have like an almost like a made up language, and there was like no subtitles, and it was just how people talked to them.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there were subtitles, and it made it seem like they were evil but not stupid. And sometimes
they took away they basically re-edited Phantom Menace to remove the stupid.
yeah, and even what's going to come out and something I'm rewatching all of the movies with my kids,
Mm-hmm.
a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they even call it out. They're like, there's a lot of like fart humor, Mom, like what's going on with this? And I'm like, you know what, kids, this is aimed at you. George Lucas specifically said this is all about you. What do you think? So listen to that episode if you want to think what kids actually think of the Phantom Menace, knowing that this was made for you guys.
That I know the scene in the Phantom Menace with the fart joke they're referencing, and that scene makes me so unreasonably mad. Just the entire thing, because it's the scene where they're getting ready for the pod race.
Yes.
They're in the starting bracket.
And the weird camel thing.
Yeah, and they get these like floating like jet-powered mini spaceships get pulled out by camels for some reason.
Yep.
This entire scene has so many factors in it that just get so under my skin, because first off, we've got Jar Jar there, who I'm, not a fan of, who's goofying his way around, and then they need to distract him, so they put a goddamn fart joke in there. So that he can go, oh, Piusa, and off he goes, so that Sebulba can come and break off a piece of Anakin's pod racer, which doesn't actually do anything.
You
he just has to
this
click
very well.
He just needs to click a little lever and everything's okay again. So what was that part even doing?
No, he had a like little grabby stick like my grandma had, like.
Yeah, but he just does it in the cockpit. He's not actually.
No, but he has a little grabby stick and it reattaches it.
No, the piece breaks off. The piece is gone.
Oh, did it?
And then,
I just watched it this weekend.
And then they're getting ready for the pod race, and little Anakin and giant Liam Neeson are there. And like, you might not know this to look at me because I'm such a towering bastion of manhood, but I was once a child who occasionally got picked up and put places by adults.
Yep.
And I was not a child who raced around at 1,000 miles an hour behind 2 jet engines in essentially a jet chariot.
Jet chariot.
And
that's a good way to...
When an adult picked me up and placed me someplace higher, it was like, okay, now I'm someplace higher. This kid who is force sensitive, he lives on this planet, he fights aliens, and he races around in his jet chariot, gets lifted up to be placed in this jet chariot by Liam Neeson, who admittedly is a big dude, and goes, whoa! Like, this is the most exciting thing that ever happened to him, and then he's more or less deadpan throughout the race. And it's just...
Yeah, I mean, maybe Jake Lloyd was just really, really excited to be picked up by his friend Liam Neeson.
No, because the whoa is so phony that you know that they're like, no, whoa better.
Maybe he thought the Jedi was just going to chuck him across the stadium. And he was just surprised that he ended up where he was supposed to be.
No, it's just... I'm getting mad talking about it.
No, I know. And I am actually very surprised that you can remember the Phantom Menace that much.
I haven't watched the Phantom Menace in
that was
a long time.
Eidetic memory.
That scene is just so burned in. Like, that was a movie where I left the theater and I was thinking, what just happened? Like, that couldn't have... No. And then, I take my time to process it, and I get up the next day, and by then I'm getting mad about it. Like,
well,
why was it so bad?
Like, the thing is, like, I like a lot of the Phantom Menace, and I like what they were trying to do. I feel like sometimes the execution, it was like, how do wars start? How does Star Wars start? Yeah, they start with real things like politics. And there could have been different ways to tell that story. I feel like the visuals, the
cinematography was brilliant.
Cinematography, the changes in how, like, they invented technology to do some of the visual effects in that movie, which is just crazy. And George was pushing the envelope in a lot of things. I also think that the character of Padme doesn't get a good rep by the fans because she is strong and powerful, and she's humble, and she sees that the only way that she can get her planet back is by bearing her pride and, like, begging for help by these, like, frogmen. I mean, there's some really cool things that happen, and the plot is actually not that terrible.
It's okay.
It's good. It tells the story, and it really does set up all of the themes that are throughout the next 8 movies. They talk about balance, and we know that balance is a big problem 8 movies later.
Well, yeah, and the pod race itself is cool. Arguably one of the best scenes of the opening trilogy.
It created one of the best video games, the pod race N64 game.
But the movie on the whole, was just so bad. And I kind of picture, and actually the entire prequel trilogy was just...
I don't agree with you.
I get the feeling that the director was going to Liam Neeson and going to Ewan McGregor and be like, no, just act less.
Just do less.
Yeah, don't act so much. Just say your lines and talk into your Lady Bick and say your lines.
Yeah. No,
and then when Hayden Christensen takes over as Anakin,
he was expecting range and being able to, like, grow into this character.
Well, the director is still telling everyone else, no, act less, bring it down a bit.
Yeah.
Ewan, bring it down. Natalie, bring it down a bit. Hayden, act harder. Not more, not better. Harder. Go watch The Room. Do that.
Do that, yeah. Like, I don't know that Hayden had a fair shake, because even there's
I can act.
No, I know. And even during the Darth Plagueis the Wise scene, there is a digital edit of his face.
Yeah.
George didn't like his face in that moment.
And once you know about that cut, you can't not see it.
You can't not see it.
Because he's just Control V. Let's put an Anakin there.
Yeah, it's like George had his particular vision of how he wanted to see it. And it probably ties into the particular story that he wants to end the saga with.
This is why I maintain that George should create and then someone else should make.
And he's really good at pulling together the best people. Like Lawrence Kasdan, amazing scriptwriter. Like the directors that he had for 5 and 6, all of the visual effects, all the ILM people, all of the Star Wars sound. Ben Burt, who did Star Wars design, sound design. Now Matt Wood, who joined him as of, I think, the start of the Phantom Menace, and then all throughout the rest of the trilogy. The sound in Star Wars makes it Star Wars. And finding, again, John Williams, which creates
John Williams makes it.
Yeah,
like he makes it from just a big movie to an iconic movie.
Well, and it's like he's telling the emotions in the music, which is just, it's just wonderful to listen to. And that's why Star Wars is so important to me, and why I could spend, an hour a week or longer all day long talking about it. Yeah.
Well, and I saw something years and years ago. I think this was actually before the prequels came out, when they were just sort of hyping up that there's new Star Wars coming, that there was a movie put out that had followed the Foley artists around while making the original trilogy, and how they discovered all the different sounds, like taking a metal pipe and smacking the guy wires holding up, or the high tension cables holding up radio towers. and well, there's your blaster shot.
Yeah.
Is that, and waving around electrical tubes to do the lightsabers. And,
yep.
like sampling all sorts of different animals for the different.
I think TIE fighters were like elephants played backwards or something like that. Yeah.
And it was just a fascinating look into that world of how Foley is done, all from a Star Wars perspective, which makes it interesting on its own.
And even like the art design, and like doing the almost conceptual design with Ralph McQuarrie originally coming in and doing all this like conceptual design of, okay, what do these droids look like? What is this scene all about? What does Darth Vader look like? You hear bad guy, samurai influence, but like in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
Like, what do you get out of that? And the designs are so cool. Even the art of the Force Awakens, the amazing artwork that came out of the Jedi Killer, like it's these like peeks into these artists' imaginations. And that's what, like, it's been thousands of people that have contributed to this vision in this world, and just continue to create. And that's why I'm excited for whatever comes next, even Solo.
Yeah.
and I hope that it fulfills an element of the story which is missing, which is, how did Han Solo
get his vest?
Well, no. Han Solo is such an interesting character, because he is the smuggler with a heart of gold. He thinks he's a worse person than he actually is.
Well, and he almost tries to be a worse person than he is.
I don't care about anything, princess. Like,
well, and even shooting Greedo.
Yeah.
First.
He definitely shot Greedo first. But that's what my Betamax tells me.
Yeah. I get into Star Wars fights when people are like, Han shot first, and I disagree with them, because it's I was a magazine editor, and I'm a grammar nerd, and it's no, if you're saying Han shot first, it implies that Greedo also shot. Han shot. That's it. He shoots Greedo under the table, leaves a couple of coins there for the bartender, apologizes for the mess, and swaggers out.
Yeah.
That's somebody who's, he's trying so hard to be a bad guy.
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah. And not for spoilers or anything like that, but the Lego images came out this week, and we get to see Han Solo in an Imperial outfit.
Lego spoils everything.
I know, right? It's always the cartoon, or it's always the
toys.
The
Lego.
Well, no, it's Lego.
Lego spoiled Giant Man in Civil War.
Oh, really? For you? It was the Lego, or sometimes the Hot Toys, sometimes the figurines spoiled. I now know what Captain America's shield looks like in Infinity Wars, because that came out. But yeah, no, we get to see Han in an Imperial outfit, and then kind of like an in-between outfit, and then his like smuggler's outfit. So And that was like, that's legends that he was a Imperial officer, and that's why he knows all of the things.
Could be. He could be the Shepherd Book of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, exactly. Or he is just pretending, right? He's just in.
Well, yeah,
in
he dressed up as a stormtrooper in New Hope.
Yep.
So you never know. I'm more excited, honestly, about Donald Glover as Lando.
Yeah, Donald Glover.
There was some fan rage of, well, it's not. Who played Lando? Judge Reinhold?
No. Who actually played Lando?
Yeah.
Oh,
Billy D. Williams.
Billy D. Williams. Yeah.
It's not Billy D, so it's not my Lando and all that stuff.
But he's old.
Yeah, he's old now.
He's really old and kind of crazy.
He's not really old.
Maybe not crazy, but like he's an old man.
Yeah, okay, 7 people.
What?
Because I didn't get a full shift with Billy, but I have worked the booth with him.
And I hear he says like the craziest stuff.
I think he's more just trying to get a rise out of people.
Okay.
I'm not sure I don't think he's like Avery Brooks crazy. I think he's just enjoying it crazy.
Okay.
But I think Donald Glover was a brilliant
casting
choice because he disappears into roles.
Oh yeah, no, and you need, and he's such an intelligent person. Like this, Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, a writer for his own show Atlanta.
Yep.
Grammy nominated.
I'm not sure, but probably
Childish
as
Gambino. Yeah.
Well, and his comedy is all original, and the falling into the role of Troy in Community.
Yeah,
that he just owned that. You never saw him break character at all.
Yeah, and he wanted to be in the Spider-Man franchise, and so they gave him like the bit part.
Yeah, he wanted to play the ultimate version of Spider-Man.
He wanted
Miles
to play
Morales.
Miles Morales. Yeah, and he ended up being Miles Morales' uncle, because it comes up in the thing. I'm also a Marvel nerd,
well, and I can
but
see him being a little too old for Miles Morales.
Yeah,
too.
they needed somebody younger. Yeah, and ideally,
skinnier. It's not like he's not a fat guy. He's got some muscle on him.
Yeah,
and I think he'd be too big to be Spider-Man.
What I'm kind of looking forward to the most in the Solo movie is the step back to the 1970s style, because that's going to be like the big hair.
Yeah, they're really throwing it in there.
And like the capes and like the popped collars and like just the high waist pants, which they've totally brought back in the Last Jedi.
Oh,
as well.
did they ever?
Yes, the high waisted pants.
But I'm looking forward to seeing Lando Calrissian as the Rogue. Because in Empire, that's what they're talking about is what are you doing being all respectable?
Yeah, you're totally respectable. And seeing like that background of his character, and but they've brought him into Rebels. He's been Lando Calrissian, played by Billy D, has been in there twice now. At one point in the first season, he actually sells Hera to as Morgan, the like fat troll looking guy, for a puffer pig. It was like the weirdest thing, but as Morgan comes back, and so I mean Billy D was actually that character as well in that, and he was suave, and I'm excited to see what happens and if he can be just as suave, because he's got that like greasy feel to him.
I think he can, but I think it's going to be neat seeing essentially Donald Glover playing Lando Calrissian as Han Solo. Because you get the feeling from their interactions in Empire that Han Solo was, or Lando was, what Han Solo's trying to be.
Yeah, exactly. Or like Lando taught him everything.
Or inspired him or something like that.
I don't know. I feel like we're gonna get to see some really interesting ideas from Han Solo. Like in the Star Wars comic, you find out that Han was with somebody named Sana in his smuggling days. I doubt she's going to come up, but that's kind of cool idea that there's this other lady out there, and Leia gets really pissed at him in the Star Wars comic. It's really hilarious. I think that we're going to see him maybe not be the best of people, but he's still going to have the hints of heroism in him.
Well, yeah, they're not evil.
No.
There's a difference between
Selfish.
bad and evil.
Well, no, and selfish
Yeah.
and evil, you know, like, or self-serving and evil.
Yeah, but they never come across as vindictive.
No.
Or they're not trying to hurt people. They're just trying to benefit themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see what the other characters are. I think that the current fulfiller of the suit who plays Chewbacca, I forget his name.
I cannot remember his name.
Swedish guy.
Yeah. To the internets.
To the internets.
Whatever his name is, I really do appreciate how classy a move it was when Force Awakens came out, that he did most of the Chewbacca suit acting because Peter Mayhew's legs aren't what they used to be, which happens to people who are 7 feet tall. And the new guy just declined having his name in the credits so that Peter Mayhew could have his name there. And that's such a stand-up move and such a cool move on his part.
All right, I'm going to let you speak it because it's the top line of it's like Jonas.
It would probably be pronounced Jonas.
But it's Jonas.
It's Joonas, Suotamo.
Yeah, Suotamo. And I like that Peter Mayhew is still a Chewbacca consultant.
Well,
I mean, you know.
He embodied that character for 6 movies.
Yeah. And we'll get to see hopefully a lot more of Chewbacca. Do you think we'll get to see the life debt?
We might.
That's good. I love Chewbacca. He's I have this really solid memory as a child of seeing him hug Han in the prison of Jabba's palace, and Han petting his hair in the hug and saying, "It's okay, buddy. It's okay."
Yeah, and it's just they had such a closeness to them.
Yeah, and like that emotional connection that comes through the screen is just like, it's wonderful.
I always get a kick out of the fact that every Wookiee that's been introduced throughout any of the canon, pretty much any Wookiee that's been introduced in Star Wars whatsoever has a name that a Wookiee would not be able to pronounce.
Yeah, it's got to be the translation, like how sometimes people from other countries take an English sounding name even though their name is nothing like that when they come to America because they know that we're idiots and we can't pronounce their name.
That's what they're all named,
right?
actually.
Yes, exactly. And then it's like the first human is like, I think that's spelled Chewbacca. I don't. And he's like, fine, that's what it is.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Fine, I'll be Chewbacca.
Fine, I'll be Chewbacca.
Chewbacca.
Yeah, so I think that we have honestly talked about the range of everything that we can possibly talk about today. But we have some more things we're going to be talking about very soon. Rebels, we're going to do a recap. We're also going to talk about probably the first 2 episodes that will come out. And continuing conversations with on fandom.
With
fandom. Yeah. I'm hoping to have some people to talk about fan fiction, which is both interesting and controversial at times.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit about that, about the different types and what's out there, especially with this whole Reylo factor out there. Which
I am not a Reylo shipper at all.
That's okay. I am.
I'm not saying that it would be bad.
No.
I'm just saying that I don't see it being good.
I am in that I see it as a potential path that they're going to go. Mm-hmm. You know, it is a potential based on the groundwork that was laid in The Last Jedi. The hand touching, the thigh grab.
Yeah, the high pants, giant chest, sexy scene.
Sexy scene. He was a little swole. It's true. Well, you know,
he's a Marine. He's going to be built, but he comes across as such a whiny emo guy that you expect him to have the whiny emo guy built.
Well, and he looked smaller maybe in TFA. I don't know.
Well, black is very slimming.
Yeah, no, he was very slimmed. I thought he was like this skinny little but no.
No, Adam Driver's a Marine.
Kylo Ren had an 8-pack.
Yeah. And giant pecs. I almost expected Luke to run in and milk him.
No, and so like
That scene made so many people mad. Oh, the internet was on fire that it was so stupid. I loved that scene.
I thought it was like, well, where else are you gonna get food? I mean, he's out there like
No,
gathering his.
I meant the shirtless, but I loved the lead into it where you just see Rey, and you can see that she's okay. The connection has come back. We're gonna talk, and she's like, "Oh, I'd really rather not do this right now." And before you see him, he's like, "Trust me, I'd rather not do this right now either."
I know.
Like, he sounds so like.
But like, if you view it from a Reylo perspective, he ripped off his shirt right before that.
Oh, phone's ringing. Get the robes off.
It's like, rip.
He just flexed really hard.
He just like, he just flexed and the shirt came off. Like that's what he's got to pay attention to. And then the scene in the throne room when she leans on him, she grabs his like haunch. Like it is practically a butt grab to hang on to him. And yeah, I mean, they share emotions. They share their feelings. They're all lonely and stuff, and they care about each other. It's all written there, and that can be where they go in the future.
I saw a brilliant video yesterday that somebody had taken that scene right when the big fight starts in the throne room and set it to a bunch of different music.
Yeah, I saw that. It was amazing.
Some of those were really well done.
I think the Reylo one was She's Like the Wind.
I forget which one it was. There was one that was rap, and it was like a really fast spoken there
was like Fleetwood Mac. There was the intro song to Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Groot dancing. It's so well edited that it works with almost any kind of music. It's beautiful. That scene was a masterpiece. Yeah, and the Holdo scene. I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna add in a spoilers warning for this whole thing. I'm just gonna say the podcast is spoilers.
Well, we should probably have said that at the beginning.
No, I'm just gonna add it in when I do the intro. I'll just add
spoilers
it in post. Spoilers. Spoilers. We're gonna randomly talk about whatever we want to, apparently. No, and the whole scene itself was just so well shot. The room was like the red walls, and
it was pretty much perfect.
Yeah. And I mean, the topper on the cake was the smoothie blender Praetorian Guard falling into the
and then the
shredder
puff coming out.
Yes. Like, I don't think we've seen, I would say the it could be a tie, or Duel of the Fates is better. I don't know. I kind of like this scene better just because of how well done. It didn't feel highly choreographed, even though I know it was.
Oh, it must have been, but it looked dirty.
Raw, dirty. Like, they're struggling. Rey gets poked in the arm. She's bleeding. Kylo's bleeding. Like, it didn't feel as choreographed as Duel of the Fates, even though Duel of the Fates was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about the Phantom Menace again. I'm sorry. But Darth Maul, Ray Park, who can still do all of those moves, which is, pretty amazing.
and he won that, or Ray Park lost that fight, even though he had the high ground.
I know. Obi-Wan never taught Anakin that move. That's what the whole thing was.
To be fair, what Obi-Wan didn't teach Anakin was that if your opponent has the high ground, instead of jumping over them, you just jump next to them and then run along parallel.
Yeah. Like, because there's a whole shoreline.
Yeah, the entire shore. He could have jumped to anywhere else on that planet.
Literally. And he
as long as he didn't jump backwards into the lava. He could have just stayed on the thing and floated away.
Force jumped really, really high up because he's the chosen one and had so many midi-chlorians or whatever.
Well, and you've actually seen them jump super high.
Like, way higher. Yeah. Like, even in the Phantom Menace fight, they, like, leap, like, like in a story and a half. Like, no,
Jedi can jump super high. Luke proved that in Empire when he jumps out of the carbonite freezing pit.
Oh yeah,
and all the way up into the rafters.
He jumped at least a story. Yeah.
But I'm just gonna jump directly over your head.
I think he was mad.
I think he was stupid.
he was a little stupid, but he was also mad. He had just killed his wife. Well, choked her and blamed Obi-Wan for everything. Just like, you don't own me. Like an angry teenager. He was just like,
Yeah, but
not
from
in his
my
right
opinion, you're the evil one.
You're the Jedi are evil. I mean, yeah. Back to the Red Room fight, which I think is better because of that.
I would have thought it was better to begin with anyway, because it honestly, it had a better build up to it, because you've got all of this build up about, we're finally going to meet Snoke. It's going to happen. We're going to find out Snoke's dead.
Oh, shit.
And then, boom, these two enemies are fighting back to back against a field of enemies.
Yeah. But really, they weren't enemies.
They weren't friends. They were kind of both.
Yeah, it's
two very confused young people.
They're very confused young people. They're except he's like 30 in this.
The fight itself is done so much better.
Yeah.
Like the Duel of the Fates, I mean, there's kicks that are landing a solid 3 feet away from the opponent who then does backflips away from it. They're twirling their lightsabers in no way that's threatening to each other.
But it has the Duel of the Fates song by John Williams.
Yeah, there's that.
And that is the bomb. And it's one of his best composed music.
But I believe the fight against the Praetorian Guard was better built up, better performed, better choreographed, and better shot.
Yes,
which is pretty much everything that it needs.
Everything it needs.
Duel of the Fates, better music.
Better music, yes.
I will give it that.
Better music in the moment, yes. And there's so many cool little moments in that, like the chain guy who latches on and it pulls her closer and she's like, ah! Just so many little moments.
We should do a combat of Star Wars episode.
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to get a stage combat specialist. Well, no, somebody from the Calgary theater community that teaches lightsaber fighting, but also has taught internationally all of this stuff.
I was a tournament and theatrical sword fighter for years, so
I've
got some opinions.
You can come and talk with that person once we book them.
I'll if you ask me to guest co-host, I will guest co-host.
You will guest co-host. You have no choice. I'm really excited for where this podcast is going to go. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, not just what's going on in the movies, our fan theories, how it all connects, all of those things. Also, kids review Star Wars, which is hilarious. I have to say that should be coming out pretty soon after this episode. I'm watching the Star Wars movies with my kids and then interviewing them about what they thought was going on. And they have all seen them before, but they were much younger and they're more into the more recent movies, which they always go to see opening day with me. They're forced to. They don't have a choice.
Well, in future episodes are going to be a little bit more focused, but this was more just where
are we at?
let's talk about Star Wars. Let's see how this works out.
Yeah.
Whereas future episodes are going to be, this is the episode we're talking about The Force Awakens. This is the episode we're talking about fan theories. This is the episode we're talking about the 501st. So it's going to be a little bit more cohesive going forward.
But also I wanted to introduce the whole concept of why we're doing it too, which is that I'm in love with Star Wars and I want to talk about it all the time. And as Joseph Campbell said, who influenced Star Wars, follow your bliss. And I think that's where we'll sign off today. So Liam, if they want to find you, where can they find you?
If you wanted to find me, my podcast is called A Story Not Forgotten. The episode that is coming out probably about the same time that this episode is coming out will feature Marie-Claire and her husband Kyle.
Yes.
And a 4 out of 5 rating that is never going to be lived down. So it's called A Story Not Forgotten. It's available on iTunes as well as a Google Play Store. My company that A Story Not Forgotten is broadcast through is called Capturing Legacies, where our entire goal is to tell people's stories. We want everybody to have their memoirs taken down, not just politicians and celebrities. We strongly believe that there is nobody alive that can't teach something to everyone else and that can't learn something from everyone else. So everyone's story matters, and we're making it possible for people to capture and share their life story without having to be rich and famous in order to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all available at capturinglegacies.com.
And your direct Twitter is?
My direct Twitter is at Liam Rathgeber, which no one is going to spell right, so we should just put it in the liner notes.
We will, yes. And I
never use my Twitter, so it'll be interesting.
If you get any follows off of this.
Yeah, we'll see. My followers are diverse. I have no idea how these people are finding me.
I don't know. Twitter is such a weird place, but I like having conversations over Twitter. So feel free to tweet at WT4 Show, which is the Twitter for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We're also at whattheforce.ca because we are a Canadian show. And my personal Twitter is Marie C. Gould. And that'll be in the liner notes as well because who knows if you can spell that. And I want to say thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to review on iTunes, share it with your friends, and we will be back soon with another thing to talk about.
Probably Star Wars.
Definitely Star Wars, some deviation.
That's good. I like Star Wars.
That's good. I like Star Wars too.